The VA made a major announcement this week that is drastically going to change the way VA loans are done. For those of you that don't know, there has been a major NAR class action lawsuit that has turned the real estate business upside down. This changes the way real estate agents get paid and also could see home buyers now responsible for paying for their own real estate representation. Why this information is important is because currently the VA handbook states that the veteran cannot pay for any part of their real estate agent's commission or brokerage fees. And I highlight that for you guys right here in the VA handbook, which goes over all the information in regards to what VA loan requirements there are. So this is a major change. The veteran may not pay for buyer's agent commission. Now, why this is all happening, though, is again because of this NAR lawsuit that has taken place. You see, back in about March, once the kind of decision was made about all of this, the NAR reached out to the VA and basically asked them to or make a change to their guidelines to allow veterans to possibly be able to pay for the real estate agent commission. Because if not, it would really handcuff the veteran from possibly having representation that some and most will need to be able to buy a house. And if you have a veteran without being able to have their own representation when buying a home, well, then what happens is you have veterans that are not going to be able to be possibly able to win on offers in a very highly competitive market. So this was a major announcement that was I saw the news broke with Realtor Magazine. Now the VA has not come out and said what the decision is going to be. They've only said that they're going to roll out a temporary fix to the buyer's agent commission problem. And they said that they were going to roll this out on June 12th. So we're kind of standing by waiting for what this looks like. If you're wanting to learn a little bit more about what the NAR lawsuit is, there's an actual timeline. I'll link this whole article down below for you guys to check out. It's actually pretty informative. It goes all the way back to when the first class action lawsuit was filed and gives you an entire timeline all the way up to the most recent change in all of this. But what I personally feel like is going to happen with all of this change is I think that they're going to allow veterans to be able to pay a portion of a real estate agent's commission. I think they're going to cap it, and I hope they do because it'll allow the veteran to be able to make sure that they're not overpaying for that representation. And my personal hope is also that it could possibly even be financed in. And what I mean is similar to the VA funding fee, where on a funding fee, the veteran has the option of either paying the VA funding fee at closing or financing it into the total loan so that way it doesn't drastically increase their closing costs. My hope is in this situation, the same thing would apply. I'm not telling you that's what the VA is going to do. This is just more kind of my personal thought on what I feel like they may do, which is allowing veterans to be able to roll that in as well. Now, here's a few things to consider when going through this whole all route. Not every veteran is going to have to pay for the real estate agent's commission. I don't want you guys to see this as, oh my God, now if I'm going to buy a house, I'm going to have to pay for my realtor. That's not exactly how this is going to work. The whole point of this is because in the NAR lawsuit, one of the major changes that has taken place is how the agent commission gets dispersed. So not only was the change for whether or not a seller had to provide buyer's agent compensation, but the change was also like in the past, what happens is if a seller is going to sell their house, they'll put their a commission up to go towards buyer and seller's agent commissions. So let's say it's 6%. That's kind of the historical number that everyone kind of goes off of, but 6% is not always what's required. Some agents do 5 or some sellers do 5%. It just really depends on what's common to your area. But 6% is kind of the general number that everyone has gone off of in the past. So if someone's selling their house, they will put up a commission of 6%. And then what will happen is when the home gets sold, the agreement in that commission is going to be how much of that 6% is going to go towards the seller's agent's commission and how much of that is going to go towards the buyer's agent. Now, normally it's about 50-50. So 3% would go to the seller's agent and 3% would go to the buyer's agent. But how it gets dispersed was like this. All 6% was going to the seller's agent. And then the seller's agent's broker was giving the 3% that was going to go to the buyer's agent from there. So it was almost kind of like a middleman effect, right? All the money was kind of going through the seller's agent's broker and then to the to the buyer's agent's broker from there. A little confusing, but that's kind of in a nutshell how it was done. Now, what's happening is if there is buyer's agent commission being offered by the seller, it's not required. So that's why some people may have to pay for their own buyer's agent. But if it is being offered, what happens is it doesn't go through the seller's agent or the seller's agent's broker anymore. It just goes directly to the buyer's agent's broker. So that's kind of one of the things that changed was just kind of how the money is changing hands. But now let's talk about obviously the elephant in the room that everyone wants to know about, the buyer's agent commission if you are not going to be required to do this. There are people that are already kind of making this change, but what they're not realizing is the consequences of that change. You see, when you decide to no longer offer a buyer's agent commission, what usually will end up happening is that home may not sell for what that seller thinks it can sell for now because there's not going to be as many eyeballs on that property. If you, as a buyer, see a house at 123 Main Street, obviously just making that up for you guys, and you know that to buy 123 Main Street, you have to pay for your seller or your buyer's agent's commission. But if you decide to go and buy 123 Fast Street, you don't, you're more than likely going to be more interested in that one because the cost to buy this house is going to be less out of pocket than to buy this house. So what I don't want you guys to look at with all of these changes with regards to this buyer's agent payment plan and all of this stuff that's going on in the NAR lawsuit as it's going to be more expensive to buy a home. I just think it's going to change the competitiveness and change the way people buy homes. I don't think it's going to be the same as it always was in the past, but I do think that there are going to be sellers that are going to feel a little bit more pain when selling their home if they try to be a little bit more aggressive by saying, I'm selling my house, this is my price, and I'm not going to move from that. This is kind of in the same realm of people who sell FSBOs, which stands for sale by owner. A lot of for sale by owner home sellers see their house sit on the market for much longer than majority of homes that are being sold by real estate professionals who have a good understanding of the area, a good understanding about what properties are worth, and a good understanding of just how to get a person in that home to want to buy it. At the end of the day, if your goal is to sell a home, your goal is to find a buyer that wants to buy that home and be able to make a deal. But if you're going to stand firm on that, you can find yourself kind of getting, kind of having that backfire on you. And I just personally feel like with this change that's happening, I think that it's going to affect sellers more in a negative way than it's going to fully affect buyers in a negative way. So let me know what your thoughts are down below in the comments. Do you think that this change that's happening to the VA guidelines in regards to seller's agent or buyer's agent commissions? And do you think this change that's happening in regards to the NAR settlement and lawsuit is a good thing? Or do you think it's a bad one? I want to know down below. Let me know your thoughts. And if you have any other questions, let me know as well. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Have a blessed weekend.